R&M, wherever R&M is required, that will be done to upgrade their capacity. Or old station will be scrapped, and on the same land some new capacities which can be much higher than what is available on the same scale. Because now supercritical technology is coming, subcritical, and they will be more environmental friendly also.
Nowadays, as we are listening every day, the land acquisition bills and so on.
Yeah, so those problems will also be resolved. If old stations which are not environmental friendly or they are not efficient in generation at the moment.
That will
So
also be
same
an issue.
Yes, so all those things are being taken care of during all these discussions.
Another query is regarding Mr. Chawla's discussion on some finance issues. We are talking about and others also, similar things, the losses and other things. And on one side we say subsidy, and subsidy business is very lucrative and people and things are doing. Why don't we have a subsidy system based upon the income, individual incomes or the family income or whatever? Why the common subsidy for everybody? So that basically may meet some requirement what we are discussing right now.
We have different tariff for lower competitor rate of per
Now, why can't we add with respect to the income growth? Because on one side we are saying, because another question, my third question is also related, that is affordable. Are we thinking of affordable power only to a persons having a good income? Because there are, on one side we say that 20 or 30 rupees non-poor like that. So are we looking those India or those Bharat, or are we focusing only India, not to Bharat?
The system, if you look at it in a holistic way, Singapore has a system called vested contract system, where people with a particular set of consumption, those who live in poor houses or can't afford higher level of electricity consumption, the government says that I will enter into vesting contracts with you, where the lowest cost of fuel will be given to those who will be serving such customers, so that your cost of generation can meet the means of those people being rendered electricity at a cheaper price. We don't do that in this country for the simple reason that it's a very vast country and it's very difficult to determine the exact economic status of each customer. So therefore, like what Mr. Chawla said, here indirectly we simulate that situation by seeing who's consuming less than a particular set of units. So if you consume less than 100 units, for example, you are assumed to be actually living with very low means, and therefore your per capita consumption is very low, and therefore government subsidizes this customer. I think it's a very correct way of doing, except when it gets political, where then to get into a political economy that we sort of declare that 50% will be subsidized to all sort of people. Now that's reckless, because then you are unnecessarily subsidizing those customers who can afford to pay that. That part I agree with you. But I think that's a political decision. In Maharashtra, they even subsidized industrial customers, and they had a bill of 7,500 crore rupees per annum. So it is endless. So good money can chase bad money, and that's what has been happening in the sector. So that's a political decision. But what he said is right. If you do it to such of the customers which are actually needy, and that's reflected by your consumption pattern, then I think it makes sense to give subsidy. And that's a directed, targeted subsidy.
Can I add one thing, Professor Pradeep, on this? If you look at it, the latest findings of the government and the way the government is going ahead, and personally I subscribe to it, that the subsidy model is not a sustainable model. I can tell you that we have done enough research, subsidy models for pumps, solar pumps to the farmers, and there has been a lot. First of all, it doesn't encourage technological advancement. Second of all, there is so much of leakage in this whole subsidy model that the product which reaches to the end consumer is far away from what it should have been if it would not have been a subsidy model. So if you look at it, it is better to invest the same money on technology as on infrastructure for creating support services for for those industries, including energy sector in India. Having given direct subsidies with all the leakages which involved into it and the inefficiencies which it encourages, I think it is not a right model for this country. If I can give you an example of a telecom field, it has moved from a highly subsidized model to a very different model right now. And look at the prices of the telecom sector for the consumer compared to the time when it was very regulated in the subsidy model. So I think we need innovative models for sustaining the industries and then which can in long-term basis helps, because the current distribution losses, as we call it, transmission losses, and then providing the subsidy to the end consumer to take all of that, it is not at all a viable model for this country.
That okay, annually what you have done, you will give the incentive next year based upon your performance.
There is a model which is being followed with respect to supporting those infrastructure which is helping in this cause. There is a model which follows that rather than a subsidy in place, you encourage the efficiencies on that. And then the generation can also be repaid in a way. So those models are also coming that rather than giving subsidy, you install higher generation capacities and some portion of it goes as a part of providing services. So there are definitely better models than subsidy model in the system.
This question is addressed to Mr. Sardana. You spoke about the fragmented nature of the generation, transmission, distribution. There is no integrated view on the power sector. Similarly, at the policy making level in the government, we have a Ministry of Coal, we have a Ministry of Power, we have Ministry of Renewable Energy Resources. Do you think if this policy making is also combined in a consolidated ministry, then problems will get addressed to a certain extent?
It's combined in a way. Now you have coal, renewables and the power with the same minister. There could have been one secretary too, but it's okay. I think our bureaucrat friends make sure that those positions don't get relinquished. So otherwise, it's a good experiment that has been done. Now, whether oil and gas could have also been combined, it's okay. But as you know that in our power sector, gas is not a very big constituent of the power sector nonetheless. So therefore, I think it's a good experiment and we have a common minister. Let's hope that this experiment works and pays and gives us some better results. That's the hope. If you don't see that, then I think that part has also failed. And I think you should also feel that it's not just the ministries and it's not just the bureaucrats who are policy makers. In this sector, even the engineers and the planners have to introspect. There's a lot that needs to be introspected even on that account. I think that's where we should also blame ourselves for that, not just the policy makers.
To the friends and my fraternity of industrial group. So my name is Pallab Agarwal. I am a 2009 pass out and my experience is very low as compared to my friends sitting over here. But I have been in past position working in Delhi Transco at the post of assistant engineer, and I have seen that for the last 3 to 4 years we have been running in the process of making India a single grid. When I compare India with the rest of the world countries, we are the 7th largest country in terms of land, and then we want to make it a single grid. Having said that, we are a country in which the environmental conditions are not same everywhere throughout India at a certain point of time. Like let's say in Meghalaya it may be raining, and in South India it might be too much humidity. So the power demands are very different in various parts of India at a certain point of time. And then we want to make a single grid. Is it viable option to convert it into a single grid? And the second question being, when we consider Delhi as a part, we are providing Delhi 24/7 power supply at any point of time. So I myself am dealing in SLDC in Delhi Transco. So I know it personally that it is very difficult to start a coal power substation from startup. It takes normally 10 to 12 hours for a coal power station to start. And even if I speak about a hydro power plant or a gas-based power plant, it will take normally 3 to 4 hours. So why are we making a single set of rules for the whole of the India? Because like Mr. Sardana just said that 35% of population is consuming 90%. So why are we not making different sets of rules for that 35% of India and for the 65% of Bharat? Why are we making same set of rules for whole of the India?
The way you're painting a picture as if the rules are same, they're not. Let's start from the customer side. The rules are absolutely different. In fact, it's rather a problem because we have 30 regulators in the country. Each of those 30 regulators, each of those 30 states have different rules and different norms. I'm coming to the transmission. Now get to the transmission. I think you've mixed up the two issue of having a synchronous grid versus the fact that they are operated as one. They are not operated as one.
So there is Agra-Gwalior line which
No,
every time
I will come to
gets
that.
overburdened
I
and
think-
it is not viable option to use a single grid.
My dear friend, I think you are enamored with the part of the problem that you understand, which is how the lack of stability in Agra-Gwalior line is impacting our entire grid flows. Let's not get into technicalities. Let's get into the macro picture first. Having a synchronous grid on a countrywide basis is a phenomenal job that Power Grid has done. I think it's a rarest of rare example which has been done and accomplished as great engineering feat. That's first part. We still operate as 5 regions. We still operate as regional grids. There are inter-region flows that take place, which is a problem. Today as a country, we wanted 60,000 megawatt as the inter-regional capacity. We have just about 28,000 megawatt of inter-regional capacity. It is that problem that we are not able to take care of South India when the power is surplus in the Eastern India because of inter-regional flows not being available. That problem as we talk is being set right. The typical problem that you talk about, some lines which had created problem in the past, is being addressed by Power Grid Corporation. The biggest issue that we have in this country is we don't get right of way. That's a state issue. While Power Grid is a central entity, he has to again deal with those 30 states to get permissions to do right of way. This is a big challenge. So you can actually get to a forest land where there is not even a speck of grass. There has never been a forest in the history of India ever, or even British people when they were there. But it's just got into the system in revenue records as the forest land. They have to follow a particular process, and that's a very elaborate process. It takes 4 years, 5 years at times to get that clearance. So my dear friend, there are lots of issues on ground, and that's where when I said integrated planning, it's also got to integrate with many other issues which are adjunct and adjoined with this entire sector development. So that's an important part.
But sir, that is what I am trying to say. Let's say in the last February, DSM regime got converted into reality, and that particular regime is being followed throughout India. The DSM rates are same for every DISCOM entity operating in any part of India. How is it possible that in Delhi, where we have the majority of the consumption being done in the northern region, how can we compare the set of rules being applied in Delhi with let's say Allahabad or Banda in UP? They have to be different. And as for the generation part goes, Rajghat power plant is being not being under operation for the last 8 to 10 months. What is being done about it? Nothing. We as a Delhi entity in government sector, no one is taking any kind of pains to improve generation sector.
It is creating pollution also. We got notice from NGT also that it is creating pollution. Another issue was this SLDC was also not scheduling power from Rajghat powerhouse. It is lying closed, and hopefully it may not be revived. I also have political will, discussion with the power minister on Delhi government and other people in the Sachivalaya. There is no will to start it again. So, but we are worried about the employees. We have got around 400 employees in Rajghat powerhouse. What will we do with them? Whether we shift it to other utilities, to Delhi Transport Limited or to others, that is also a big problem for us. But hopefully, if it is scrapped and sold, and another gas turbine plant will come up in its place.
I think, Bala, what you need to understand, there are two perspectives as an engineer and as an emotional person, that why my Delhi station is not being done. You need to understand that the variable cost, which is the cost of conversion from coal to power, is the highest in that station. So on a merit order basis, it should never be run. It should be scrapped as early as possible. In fact, all Delhi stations should be scrapped, including Bhavana, which was built just about few years back, because the cost of conversion is so much that the consumer has to pay for it. So I think we have to understand there has to be a merit order that has to be the real rule of governance for operating those stations.
24/7. A friend of mine from Haryana told that we are supplying power to Faridabad 24/7, and I was surprised. He says 24 days a month, 7 hours a day. We should be clear about it.
What you have principal, ex-principal secretary, far from Haryana sitting here, they can respond.
सरदाना साहब आपके आने से पहले करनाल सिंह ने बोला था कि गोवा में जो पावर है, ट्रांसमिशन डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन लॉसेस आर जीरो. I said no. I am from Joint Electricity Regulatory Commission and looking after Goa. It is 11.5%. Right?
Transmission loss is zero. Transmission.
Transmission distribution total.
Total नहीं, उन्होंने transmission loss. And he said only transmission.
Okay, let's come to that. Now the TNT losses will improve because the person who is principal secretary over there, I think he is the class fellow of our friend Mr. Anil Sadana. He is 1981 batch. From 1980 batch. 1980 batch from DC. Arun Goyal. He is principal secretary. Sir, एक चीज मिस्टर सदाना ने कही है कि होलिस्टिकली हम नहीं देखते. मेक इन इंडिया तो एक किनारे हो गया. हम लोगों ने एक स्लोगन उठाया था, मेक इन इंडिया. आर वी रेडी विद दैट? जब हम रिन्यूएबल पावर की बात कर रहे हैं, we have got only 2 gigawatt capacity of manufacturing here in India, and we are talking of 40 gigawatts by 2022. Right, sir? 100. Oh, no, okay, sorry. 40 gigawatt for solar rooftop. 100 total.
RE Invest, they have got 2,72,000 megawatts.
Right. So what I'm trying to say, we are not ready as far as Make in India is concerned, and then are we ready on the skilled manpower? No. तो होलिस्टिकली कुछ नहीं देख रहे, बस एक स्लोगन जो फैशन स्टेटमेंट कही है इन्होंने, वो ठीक कही है. सर आपको दे दूं मैं.
Yeah, hi friends, I'm Devendra Singh. It's glad that at the expense of Haryana, everybody's had a good joke and a good laugh, which is fine. I'm with you, but let me tell you, 24/7. Of course, because of distribution bottlenecks, there may be a couple of hours are lost. There can be local problems, but there is no question of the kind of power supply which we talked about. In rural areas, of course, there are problems, and the problems I think have been amply explained here. Problems of non-payment, problems of political will, and I think very appropriately highlighted by Mr. Sardana. Essentially, political will, and I'll just, if you permit me, just 1 minute. In fact, very interesting that it's a closed gathering, so I can narrate a very candid experience. That when Mamata Banerjee took over in West Bengal, at that time, the first day when she took over, I think there was a tariff hike proposal by Malay, who was the then Principal Secretary Energy, of 30 paisa. And she said, how the hell is it possible that I am taking over tomorrow and you want 30 paisa increase? Just not done. So that was put on IOU, as you say, and regulatory asset. But after some time, very smartly, and Malay narrated this decision to me, he said that during Durga Puja days, and they were short of cash, which happens in many of such cash utilities which do not collect after supplying. So he stopped supplying power, and which was required 24/7 Bengal. And the Chief Minister said, what the hell is going on? And he said, I don't have money. And unfortunately, the coffers were made empty by the previous government, where they were expecting Mamata Banerjee to come. So there was no cash even in the government treasury. So finally, she very reluctantly said that, okay, you increase, but do you think there will not be a backlash? And you will be surprised. And we always quote this example. He says, I take guarantee of that.